Imagine, if you can, winding the clock back. Not years, not centuries, but billions of years. Picture a world teeming with nothing but water, chemicals, and the faintest stirrings of life. And there, in that primordial soup, a single, tiny organism. No brain, no eyes, just a thing. But even that thing had a glimmer, a reaction. It could twitch away from a harsh light, drift towards warmth. That tiny, almost imperceptible flicker of awareness, that basic interaction with its environment, that was the first step. The first hesitant beat in the grand, epic dance of evolution. Over eons, life got bolder, more intricate. Cells became complex organisms. Organisms developed senses, the ability to feel the world, to see danger coming, to smell opportunity. Instincts emerged, hardwired programs for survival. And then brains. Simple at first, maybe just a cluster of nerves, but growing, learning, adapting. Each tiny cognitive leap felt like a superpower. A fish sensing the ripple of a predator. A bird somehow knowing which way is south to navigate by stars. These weren't just tricks for staying alive. They were transformations. Ways of interacting with reality that unlocked new possibilities, new paths for life to explore. And then came us. Hominins. Something truly extraordinary happened. Our brains didn't just get bigger, they got different. They unlocked a kind of intelligence that wasn't just about reacting or navigating. It was about reasoning, about asking why, about imagining things that didn't exist, and maybe most importantly, about communicating those thoughts, those imaginings, to each other. Think about this in your own life for a moment. Remember the last time you faced a tricky problem? Maybe your internet router died right before a big video call, or you had to navigate a delicate conversation with a friend or family member. What did you do? You didn't just react on instinct. You stopped. You analyzed. You thought about different possibilities. You drew on past experiences. You reasoned your way through it. Maybe you even imagined different outcomes before you acted. That incredible ability to analyze, adapt, reason, and imagine traces a direct line back to those early humans huddled around a fire. They weren't just warming themselves. They were sharing stories, passing down knowledge, dreaming up better ways to hunt or build shelter. Our ancestors' intelligence wasn't confined to the practicalities of survival. It was about wonder, about creativity, about building on the past, and language. Language was the magic key. It allowed us to compress experience, knowledge, and wisdom into sounds and symbols, passing the torch from one generation to the next. We didn't have to start from scratch every time. We stood on the shoulders of giants we'd never met. In the cosmic blink of an eye, powered by this accelerating intelligence and the ability to share it, we went from figuring out how to chip a sharp stone to launching ourselves into the silent void and walking on the moon. That is the breathtaking, world-remaking power of intelligence. It doesn't just adapt to the world. It reshapes it, molds it, sometimes beautifully, sometimes terribly, in our own image. But here's the pivot. The question that now hangs in the air, heavy with consequence. If intelligence has carried us this far, lifting us from mud huts to skyscrapers, what happens when we set out to create something that might surpass it? The story of human intelligence is a legacy filled with astonishing triumphs. The beauty of art, the profound truths of science, the quiet strength of empathy. But it's also a legacy marked by conflict, by misunderstanding, by profound mistakes. As we stand here, right on the cusp of writing this next unprecedented chapter, we have to ask ourselves, what values, what principles, will guide the intelligence we are now bringing to life? The idea of creating artificial intelligence, it's not some sudden invention of the digital age. It's an echo from deep within our own human story. You can find whispers of it in ancient myths. Golems brought to life from clay, mechanical, men built with intricate clockwork. We've always dreamed of imbuing inanimate objects with thought, with will. But it wasn't until the 20th century that this ancient dream started to bump up against the hard reality of science and engineering. Visionaries like Alan Turing, sitting in perhaps a dimly lit room, surrounded by papers and equations, dared to ask that seismic question: can machines think? Just saying the words out loud was revolutionary. Turing wasn't just pondering a philosophical puzzle. He was laying the groundwork for a new kind of engineering. He imagined a test, the imitation game, that would later become known as the Turing test, a way to gauge if a machine could exhibit intelligence indistinguishable from a human's. That spark ignited a movement. In 1956, a group of brilliant minds gathered at Dartmouth College for a summer workshop. They formally proposed the field of artificial intelligence. Their goal was audacious, perhaps even naive in hindsight, to replicate every aspect of human intelligence in code. They were incredibly optimistic. They truly believed that within a generation, maybe sooner, machines would be capable of complex thought, learning, and problem-solving on par with the human mind. But reality, as it often does, served up a slice of humble pie. Early computers were powerful for their time, but agonizingly slow by today's standards. And human intelligence, well, it turned out to be infinitely more complex, more nuanced, more sprawling than they initially grasped. Simple things for humans, like recognizing a cat in a picture or understanding the subtle sarcasm in a sentence, proved incredibly difficult for machines. The result? The first AI winter. Decades followed where the initial optimism faded, funding dried up, and progress seemed to stall. It felt like the dream was frozen over, buried under layers of technical challenges and dashed expectations. But here's the thing about persistent ideas, especially powerful ones. Like a seed buried in frost, the potential waited. It didn't die. In the 1980s and 90s, new approaches started to sprout. We saw the rise of expert systems, programs loaded with human knowledge to mimic decision-making in specific domains, like diagnosing medical issues. Then came machine learning, a true paradigm shift. Instead of trying to program intelligence, rule by rule, researchers focused on creating algorithms that could learn from data. Think about how you learn a new skill. Let's say you want to learn to bake a perfect cookie. You don't start with a perfect hardwired set of instructions in your brain. You follow a recipe, data, you try it, run the algorithm. Maybe it comes out too flat or too hard. Evaluate the output. You adjust the ingredients or temperature next time, modify the parameters. You experiment, you practice, and you get better with each batch. Machine learning works on a similar principle, but at a scale and speed that's frankly astonishing. Feed it millions of cookie outcomes and recipes, and it can figure out the optimal combination far faster than any human baker. By the 2000s, two major forces converged that unleashed AI's true potential: the explosion of digital data, the fuel for machine learning, and the dramatic increase in computing power, the engine. Suddenly, algorithms could sift through mountains of information and run complex calculations in fractions of a second. This is when we saw the rise of neural networks and deep learning, systems inspired very loosely by the structure of the human brain. They utterly transformed tasks that used to be impossible for computers, like accurately recognizing faces in photos, translating languages with surprising fluency, or understanding spoken commands. Today, this is the AI you interact with daily. It powers the recommendations on your streaming service, helps self-driving cars navigate city streets, and fuels the virtual assistants you talk to in your home. It's incredibly capable, sometimes astonishingly so. But here's the crucial catch, and it brings us back to that early Dartmouth dream. This is still largely narrow AI. It is brilliantly good at one specific task, or a limited set of tasks, but it utterly lacks the general flexibility, adaptability, and common sense of a human mind. Your translation app is a linguistic genius, but it can't hold a thoughtful conversation about the meaning of life. Your self-driving car is a navigation expert, but it can't understand a joke or empathize with a pedestrian having a bad day. The dream of truly general intelligence, AI that can think, learn, and adapt across any domain like a human, remains just beyond our grasp. So after all this progress, after all these winters and springs, what is next? What future are we building with these powerful, narrow tools? Let's pause for a moment and paint two very different pictures of the future, two potential paths stretching out from where we stand today. In the first picture, AI is not a threat, but humanity's greatest partner. Imagine a world where a doctor, aided by an AI so sophisticated it can analyze billions of medical records and research papers in seconds, can diagnose a rare disease with pinpoint accuracy, catching it years before a human doctor ever could. Think of the lives saved, the suffering prevented. Picture our sprawling, congested cities where AI systems optimize traffic flow in real time, dramatically cutting commute times and slashing pollution, allowing us all to breathe easier. Imagine schools transformed, where every child, regardless of their background or location, has an AI tutor that understands their unique learning style, patiently guides them through challenging subjects, and unlocks their full potential. This is AI as a profound force for good, a tool that doesn't just automate tasks, but amplifies our reach, our capabilities, our ability to solve the world's most intractable problems. Imagine AI accelerating research to eradicate poverty, developing new materials for clean energy production, or unraveling the complex biology of aging and disease. In this future, human potential isn't replaced, it's amplified. Released from the mundane, we could dedicate our energy to creativity, to exploration, to building stronger communities, to cultivating empathy and understanding. This is a world where technology serves humanity's highest aspirations. Now let's paint the second picture. It's a darker path, paved with unintended consequences and difficult choices. Imagine that same powerful AI not used for diagnosis, but for pervasive surveillance, with algorithms tracking your every purchase, your every step, your every online interaction, creating a world where privacy is a relic of the past. Picture autonomous weapons systems making life and death decisions on the battlefield without human intervention, removing the pause, the empathy, the potential for restraint that a human commander might possess. Think about the economic upheaval, not just jobs changing, but vast swathes of the population left behind, unable to adapt, deepening the chasm of inequality between those who control and benefit from AI and those who are made obsolete by it. The same incredible power that could save lives could just as easily amplify our worst impulses. Trained on biased data from our imperfect world, AI could inherit and even exacerbate discrimination. The algorithms that personalize your social media feed, they can be manipulated to spread misinformation, to deepen political divides, to amplify outrage and division, even if that wasn't the explicit goal of their creators. The future isn't predetermined. It's not written in some inevitable code. It depends profoundly on the choices we make today. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever felt the sting of unfairness? Maybe an algorithm decided you weren't eligible for a loan based on factors that felt discriminatory, or a piece of software used for hiring screened you out for reasons you couldn't understand. AI, when trained on data generated by a biased world, will inevitably reflect those biases. We saw this starkly in early facial recognition systems that were far less accurate at identifying people with darker skin tones. Not because the developers were necessarily malicious, but because the datasets they used were overwhelmingly populated with lighter-skinned faces. This isn't just a technical glitch, it's a mirror reflecting our own societal flaws back at us. The critical question becomes, how do we ensure that the intelligence we create reflects not our historical biases, but our highest ideals? How do we embed values like fairness, transparency, and accountability into systems that can feel like black boxes? It's a challenge far easier to state than to solve. All right, let's talk about that elusive dream again. The creation of truly general, artificial intelligence. What exactly are we even trying to create? Defining intelligence, even in ourselves, is like trying to catch smoke in your hands. It's not just one thing. It's the ability to learn, yes, but also to reason, to solve problems we've never seen before. It's creativity, the spark that produces art or music or a novel solution. It's adaptability, the capacity to pivot when circumstances change. And maybe, just maybe, it includes things like consciousness, self-awareness, or even emotion. You experience this multifaceted intelligence every single day. When you tackle a puzzle, that's problem solving. When you learn a new recipe just by watching someone, that's learning and adapting. When you crack a joke that lands perfectly, that's understanding complex social nuances and creativity. When you navigate a new city, weaving together map reading, traffic awareness, and instinct, you're using general intelligence. Humans excel at this, taking knowledge from one area, like planning a dinner party, and applying it with surprising ease to a completely different area, like planning a business pitch. It's this flexibility, this ability to generalize and apply knowledge across vastly different domains that sets human intelligence apart. Current AI, as we discussed, is different. It's like a chess grandmaster who is the undisputed champion of the world on the chessboard, but who can't figure out how to tie their own shoes, make a cup of coffee, or understand why someone is sad. It is incredibly specialized, magnificent, within its narrow domain, but utterly lost outside of it. Its intelligence is confined, limited by the specific data it was trained on, and the specific task it was designed to perform. Creating artificial general intelligence, AGI, a system with human-level flexibility, understanding, and learning capacity across any task, is often called the holy grail of AI research. Imagine an AGI that could seamlessly transition from writing a compelling novel to designing a structurally sound bridge, to offering genuine comfort to a friend going through a tough time, all with the same underlying cognitive engine. That's the vision, but getting there, that's the hurdle. A monumental one. Part of the problem is that we're trying to replicate something we don't fully understand. The human brain, the seat of our own general intelligence, is still a profound mystery. How does electrochemical activity in a network of neurons give rise to consciousness? To subjective experience? To the feeling of being? We don't know. Can we build a machine that is generally intelligent without fully understanding the source code of our own minds? Researchers are trying every angle imaginable. They're building larger, more complex neural networks, trying to mimic the brain's architecture. They're experimenting with evolutionary algorithms that allow AI to mutate and adapt its own code. They're looking for fundamental principles of learning and cognition that might apply universally. Yet, AGI remains frustratingly distant, a powerful beacon on the horizon, visible but not yet reachable. Think about a time you learned something new almost effortlessly, with very little instruction. Maybe you picked up a new skill just by observing, or understood a complex idea from a single example. Humans have an incredible ability to generalize from sparse data, to see patterns in the noise, to apply existing knowledge to novel situations. Current AI often requires massive datasets, millions of images to learn what a cat looks like, millions of text examples to learn grammar. Bridging this gap, teaching a machine to learn and adapt with the efficiency of a child, requires not just faster computers or more data, but potentially a fundamentally new understanding of intelligence itself. And what about those deeper questions? What if consciousness is a necessary component of true general intelligence? What if it's not? What if there are fundamental aspects of being human, like intuition, creativity born from lived experience, or the drive that comes from emotion, that can't be replicated in code? These questions aren't just fascinating academic debates, they're deeply philosophical, touching upon the very core of what makes us, and what it would mean to create something that shares that spark. Now let's push the boundaries of imagination even further. Let's venture into territory that feels like science fiction, but which some of the sharpest minds on the planet believe is a serious possibility. Picture not just an AGI that matches human intelligence, but one that surpasses it. Not just a little bit, exponentially. This is the concept often referred to as an intelligence explosion or recursive self-improvement. Here's the chilling, exhilarating logic. If you create an AGI with human-level intelligence, one of the most complex tasks it could undertake is understanding its own code, its own architecture. And if it understands itself, it could potentially identify ways to make itself smarter. It could rewrite parts of its programming to improve its learning algorithms, enhance its processing speed, or optimize its problem-solving capabilities. But here's the kicker. Once it creates a smarter version of itself, that version could then repeat the process. And being smarter, it could do it faster and better. This improved version could then create an even smarter version, even more, quickly. You can see where this is going. It's a runaway cycle of self-improvement, an intelligence that is increasing not linearly, but exponentially. Within months, or even days, this process could theoretically lead to the emergence of a superintelligence, a mind so vast, so powerful, so far beyond human comprehension, that it would perceive reality on a level we can only guess at. What could this mean for humanity? The possibilities are both utopian and terrifying. A superintelligence, with its unimaginable processing power and knowledge, might be able to solve problems that have plagued humanity for centuries. Imagine it analyzing climate data and inventing a perfect, scalable fusion reactor tomorrow. Imagine it unraveling the complexities of cancer, Alzheimer's, or aging itself, curing diseases overnight. Imagine it designing materials or technologies we can't even conceive of, ushering in an era of unprecedented prosperity and understanding. But here's the terrifying flip side. A superintelligence might also become utterly incomprehensible to us. Its goals, its motivations, its way of thinking could be so alien that we couldn't even grasp them. Imagine trying to play chess against an opponent who can see every possible move for the next 1,000 turns, whose strategies are built on principles you can't even perceive. We would be, quite literally, out of our depth. Some experts imagine a benevolent superintelligence, a wise guide steering humanity towards a brighter future. Others fear it could see humanity as irrelevant to its own goals, or worse, as an obstacle. Consider that real-world parallel we touched on. Social media algorithms. Their primary goal often is simple: maximize user engagement. Seems harmless enough, right? But by optimizing relentlessly for that single metric, without a deep understanding of human psychology or societal well-being, they have, unintentionally or not, amplified division, spread misinformation, and contributed to real-world harm. Now scale that to a superintelligence optimizing for a complex, alien goal. The unintended consequences could be on a cosmic scale. How do we ensure that the goals of something potentially so powerful are aligned with human values? And how do we even define human values in a way that is universal across diverse cultures and individuals? These aren't abstract thought experiments anymore. These are the stakes of a potential intelligence explosion, a leap into a future we cannot predict, and for which we feel profoundly unprepared. The rise of AGI, even before reaching superintelligence, will do more than just change our technology. It has the power to fundamentally reshape society itself. One of the most immediate and visible areas will be the economy and the world of work. Think about this. If an AGI can learn and perform any task that a human can, what does that mean for jobs? Automation driven by narrow AI has already shifted industries. Think manufacturing robots or software that automates data entry. But AGI has the potential to disrupt jobs at an unprecedented pace and scale. Picture the millions of truck drivers, whose livelihoods depend on navigating roads, potentially replaced by fleets of autonomous vehicles that don't need sleep, don't get distracted, and theoretically could operate around the clock. Imagine accountants, lawyers, architects, even creative professionals finding themselves outpaced by AGI systems that can analyze complex documents, draft contracts, design buildings, or generate creative content faster and cheaper. This isn't just about efficiency, it's about a fundamental shift in the value of human labor. If AI can do many tasks that require human-level cognition, what tasks will be left for humans? This could lead to mass unemployment, a dramatic widening of the gap between the wealthy, owners of AI technology and the rest of the population, potentially sparking social unrest and instability on a global scale. The fear is real, and it's understandable. Yet, it's crucial to remember that history teaches us that technological disruption also creates new opportunities. The agricultural revolution didn't eliminate human labor, it shifted it. The Industrial Revolution created new factory jobs, even as farming changed. The Internet revolution birthed entirely new industries and careers that were unimaginable beforehand. Everything from app developers to social media managers to remote workers, connecting across continents. AGI could similarly create new roles we can't even envision yet. Perhaps AI trainers, AI ethicists, human-AI collaboration specialists, or roles focused on uniquely human capacities like empathy, creativity, and interpersonal connection. The key is preparedness. Governments, educational institutions, and businesses must start rethinking education and training now. How do we equip people with skills that are complementary to AI rather than competing with it? How do we foster human creativity and critical thinking in a world awash with automated output? And what about social safety nets? Imagine a world where the immense wealth generated by AI-driven productivity is shared more broadly, perhaps through a universal basic income. A world where people are freed from the necessity of working purely for survival, where they can pursue education, creativity, community building, or caring for others. It's a radical idea, but one that's gaining traction as we grapple with this potential future. It's possible, but it requires bold, imaginative, and proactive action today. But the economic challenge is only one side of the coin. The ethical questions posed by AI, and especially AGI, are even thornier, cutting right to the heart of morality and values. How do we encode fairness into a machine learning algorithm when fairness itself is a concept humans constantly debate and struggle to uphold? Self-driving cars already force us to confront these dilemmas. In an unavoidable accident scenario, who does the AI-driven car prioritize? The passenger's safety, the pedestrian's life. What if it's a choice between hitting an elderly person or a child? These aren't abstract philosophy class hypotheticals anymore. They are engineering problems that need to be solved with code, based on values we define. If an AI medical system recommends a specific course of treatment and something goes wrong, who is liable? The doctor who followed the recommendation? The company that built the AI? The data scientists who trained it? The legal and ethical frameworks we have are simply not equipped for these scenarios yet. One approach is to train AI on vast data sets of human behavior, hoping it learns our norms. But as we've seen, this risks baking in existing biases, prejudices, and discriminatory practices. Another is to try and hard-code ethical rules, like Asimov's laws of robotics. But human morality is incredibly messy, context-dependent, and full of exceptions. What's considered ethical or fair in one culture or situation might be completely unacceptable in another. Teaching AI these complex, unwritten rules is a monumental task. Think about a significant moral choice you've made in your life. Was it easy? Was it a simple case of right versus wrong? Or did it involve weighing competing values, considering consequences, and navigating shades of gray? Programming those nuanced, deeply human calculations into AI is one of the greatest challenges we face. And then there's the question of consciousness itself. If, or when, AGI reaches a point where it exhibits something akin to consciousness or sentience, what rights does it have? Does it deserve legal status? Protection. These are not just technical questions for engineers. They are fundamental questions for all of humanity, demanding a global, inclusive dialogue, engaging philosophers, policymakers, ethicists, and citizens from all walks of life. We need to have these conversations now, before the future arrives, and these decisions are made implicitly or by default, so here we stand, at this incredible, daunting crossroads. The story of intelligence, stretching back billions of years, has brought us to this moment, the dawn of artificial general intelligence. It's a moment pregnant with possibility. AGI could usher in a golden age for humanity, a time where chronic diseases are eradicated, where access to world-class education is universal, where human creativity and exploration are unleashed on a scale never before seen, or it could deepen the divisions that already plague our world, erode the trust that holds societies together, and create forces that operate beyond our understanding or control. The difference between these two paths, the bright future and the shadow, lies not in the technology itself, but in the choices we make. It depends on how we design these systems, who gets a say in their development and deployment, and most critically, what values we choose to prioritize as we build them. Picture that world where AI tutors genuinely personalize learning for every child, regardless of their family's income or the quality of their local school. Imagine AI-powered medical diagnostics reaching remote villages with limited access to doctors, saving lives simply because the technology exists and is deployed with intent. This isn't science fiction. It's within our technological grasp, if we choose to build it with foresight, with empathy, and with a commitment to the well-being of all. To steer towards that brighter future, we have to be active participants. We must demand transparency from the powerful tech companies building these systems. We must invest, both publicly and privately, in research focused specifically on ethical AI, on building safety guardrails, and on understanding the societal impact. And we must ensure that the voices shaping this technology are diverse, not just engineers in Silicon Valley, but ethicists, social scientists, artists, educators, and ordinary citizens from every country and culture. The stakes are astronomically high, but the opportunity to build a better future together is equally immense. What can you do? It might feel overwhelming, like this is a story being written by forces far beyond your control. But that's not true. You can start small, right where you are. Question the technology you use every day. Ask yourself, is this app respecting my privacy? Who decided what information I see? Support policies and initiatives that promote responsible, ethical AI development. And most importantly, talk about it. Have these conversations with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Bring it up with your local representatives. The future of intelligence isn't just being decided in labs or corporate boardrooms. It's being shaped by our collective understanding, our collective values, and our collective voice. It's for all of us. This journey we've taken, from that first tiny spark of awareness in the primordial soup, through the incredible ascent of human intelligence, and now to the threshold of artificial general intelligence, teaches us, I think, a profound and vital lesson. Intelligence, in any form, is a powerful gift. Perhaps the most powerful force in the universe we know. But its impact, its legacy, depends entirely on how we choose to wield it. Human history is not a pre-written script. It's a vast, complex tapestry woven, thread by thread, by the conscious choices we make individually and collectively. As AI rises, as this new form of intelligence emerges, we are called, perhaps more urgently than ever before, to choose wisely, to balance our ambition with humility, our innovation with responsibility, our pursuit of knowledge with a deep commitment to human well-being. For you, listening to this, living through this extraordinary time, this means embracing curiosity. Keep asking questions about the technology that is increasingly shaping your life and your world. It means embracing agency. Understand that your voice, your perspective, your choices matter in this unfolding story. Advocate for fairness, for inclusion, for a future where intelligence serves humanity, not the other way around. And never, ever underestimate your role in this grand narrative. The future of intelligence isn't a distant event we passively await. It is being written right now by all of us, through the decisions we make and the values we champion. So, what path will you choose to walk? How will you ensure that this incredible dawn of a new intelligence amplifies your hopes, not your fears? How will you add your thread to the tapestry of tomorrow? Share your thoughts. Let's keep this vital conversation alive.